Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the AJSN Average Joe Sports Podcast. With you, as always, is me, Stu.
I'm the big dog.
And I'm Logan.
And I'm not even gonna talk about sponsors this week. I think we should just get right into the action. So, NFL free agency. It started last week while we were on break, and almost immediately it became a very, very entertaining show to watch.
Lots of big name signings and lots of team improvements all around. There's a whole lot to talk about, but I think the first one we should start off with is it's not even a free agent signing. It was Antonio Brown getting traded to the Bills, or so we thought. Turns out within the hour the Bills cut off all trade ties with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then he ended up going to the Oakland Raiders.
Antonio Brown literally, I think on Twitter, called going to the Bills fake news like immediately.
Which
made it even funnier.
Well, there's a lot of wide receiver moves going on around the league right now, and I mean even right now, a lot of this stuff started last week and it's still going. I saw earlier also where AJ McCarron was signing with the Houston Texans. So obviously there's enough to go around for everybody, regardless of whatever position you may need. Wide receivers definitely big. The Raiders are making some big moves. So
wide receiver seems to be the biggest talking point, but I just find it kind of funny that when you have a guy like Antonio Brown come up, that we get a false source pretty much immediately on his case. And coming from a guy like Ian Rappaport, who's usually regarded as one of the most well-respected sources in the NFL in general, I was very surprised to see that actually turn out to not happen for the Buffalo Bills.
Something probably got lost in translation, because I'm sure Rappaport probably has a person who probably has associates within a lot of the franchises that would break this news to him.
Oh yeah.
So something must have been lost in translation, either on his end or on someone else's end, as that information was being given to him.
Let's not forget about Ian Rappaport, though. He started a big part of his career working in Birmingham, and and even now on the national scene, he's well known for being the first, usually, to get out the news. But
exactly.
Not always most reliable. And that really burns you sometimes. I mean, and you don't even just see that on the national stage. You see that a lot on the local stage as well. Like I said, he still had that same mentality when he was working in the state of Alabama, doing much more small scale news.
But just moving on to Antonio Brown again, this is a huge get for the Oakland Raiders. Derek Carr has been looking for a guy. I know he had Amari Cooper, but he's been looking for that true star receiver that he can just get the ball to, and Antonio Brown is pretty much the best receiver in the league, so he has got that in. Surely Oakland fans are happy about it.
But, I find it funny you give up Amari Cooper, who's an emerging young talent, and you spend all this money to get Antonio Brown. Now, I think this will be a good fit for Antonio Brown because he obviously wants the ball more, and with Jordy Nelson, as I said, Amari Cooper gone, Brown is obviously going to be Carr's best target, and I think Brown will be good for helping Carr pad out his stats a little bit, because the past 2 years, for Carr have been downgrades compared to what he was in 2016, when it looked like the Raiders were poised to make a Super Bowl run. So I think it's, in terms of Brown's talent, it's a good deal. It's still a bit fishy. But where I'm hung up is the fact that, the Raiders, if you don't remember, had Randy Moss at one point. And as far as I remember, he wasn't that good on the Raiders. So
But then again, he was kind of old at that point.
No, yeah. That was the starting point before he went to the Patriots, though, and he played great on the Patriots. He had Brady, but
yes,
still.
That run. right?
Well, like I said,
Well,
his last
him and Oakland were never just like a real fit to begin with. There was.
What's what you gonna say? Something?
No, I mean I was going to let Si finish out what he had to say.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
No.
So
They were just never really good fit, and it was never really like match from the beginning. So Randy Moss in Oakland was just a failed experiment all around.
yeah, that was a good point. I mean, I'm kind of agreeing with Si on this. You can almost just ignore half the teams that Randy Moss was on in his last 4 or 5 seasons. I mean, he just.
But the problem was this wasn't last. Well, okay, I'm not. I don't remember how many years Moss played for the Patriots, but like Randy Moss was still seen as Randy Moss.
Yes.
When he signed with
he
the
was
Raiders.
seen like that when he was signed with Tennessee, though, and he
and he helped sell tickets. I mean,
yeah, but
that was about it.
That half of his career was completely different from the part of the career when he did play for the Raiders. And my big concern with Antonio Brown is that we obviously know Brown's got a huge ego, and I got a feeling because I know Moss. I think Moss had a bit of an ego on him, if I remember correctly. And so I'm thinking, is Brown gonna be his own worst enemy? Is he gonna end up, getting in his own way and driving his career downhill?
Do you think that with John Gruden being the head coach there, that this might not be necessarily a great fit as well?
I think it is.
Just because you know that John Gruden is not going to be a diva like that. Because John Gruden pretty much is a diva himself.
I actually think completely different. John Gruden's in a situation where he signed this gigantic contract, and he's getting a lot of money to work in Oakland, soon to be Las Vegas. And the fact of the matter is, the ownership and the management is going to get all over him if he does not work well with Antonio Brown, because I know that they're not paying Antonio that much money and they're not paying John Gruden that much money for them to just sit around and argue with each other the whole time and waste year after year and dollar after dollar.
I mean, this situation pretty much occurred when Vince Young got drafted, and him and Jeff Fisher never saw eye to eye on pretty much anything.
Yes, but we also had poor management.
So but you also got to realize that the Raiders are necessarily the best managed team in the NFL right now themselves. So
yeah, Davis isn't exactly the
Mark
best
Davis.
owner.
Mark Davis is definitely not the best owner in the NFL.
Well, I'm not saying he's
far
the best
from
owner.
it.
Everybody knows who he is, and it's not a bad thing. I mean, I mean, there's nothing really bad to say about the guy other than they've had bad year after bad year.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
when you're owning a team,
has a decent reputation in the NFL, even though he's not the biggest winner.
I mean, not necessarily. Pretty much no one was other than the NFL owners themselves was in favor of moving Oakland to Las Vegas. So,
and this year they couldn't even get anywhere to play.
Exactly. They had struggles negotiating just where to play this year in their final year as the Oakland Raiders.
That's just sad. But
so I think overall, if you're gonna trade for a guy like that, you just kind of the situation works out. I think it's a good get for the Oakland Raiders overall, but we'll see how styles clash with Gruden and Brown as the.
I think if the egos don't get in the way, I think this works out.
Right.
Carr has his number one receiver. Antonio Brown's getting more touches, more credit like he wants, and the Raiders go to Las Vegas and they start winning, and Vegas super duper fancy. Like imagine a Super Bowl parade in Las Vegas. That would be like the event of the century.
Yeah.
No, imagine. Well, they're gonna play a Super Bowl in Las Vegas sooner or later, but like.
Oh yeah, for sure. But.
All right, now I want to move on to Le'Veon Bell, who held out all of last season with the Steelers, and he signed with the Jets, which I thought was interesting.
That came completely out of left field. I get it. The Jets are in New York. It's not far from Pittsburgh and everything, but The Jets?
I mean, I don't think that's any more random than, the Tennessee Titans or the Jacksonville Jaguars or the Buccaneers or anybody else for that matter.
Right.
New York ultimately New York does not have that many big name guys. I'm sure they've got more than enough cap space to go after whoever they feel they need.
I mean, I just find it kind of interesting. Maybe he got the best deal over there because, pretty much outside of Jamal Davis, they don't really have anyone.
Right.
Like of any note.
Like, I'll say this. In terms of, like, ignoring, like, how random it might have been, like, looking at what the Jets need, they ranked 29th in total offense last year and 24th in rushing. It's obvious they need some weapons. And in my opinion, with this offseason, they need to start building around their supposed quarterback of the future and Sam Darnold. And I think this is a good start because it gives him someone in the backfield to rely on, assuming Le'Veon plays up to even half of his potential in Pittsburgh. Because, I mean, let's face it, Le'Veon was a really solid running back. So
that's kind of understating it a little bit.
This gives him someone to give the ball to. This gives the Jets a little bit of offensive firepower because they're still going to be building for at least the next year or two.
Well, for the Jets' sake, I just wanted to say that I really do hope they get their money's worth. $27 million guaranteed just over the next 2 seasons. That's a lot of cash that these guys are pulling out. Like I said earlier, I think they've got the cash to give. It's just a matter of, I'd hate to see Le'Veon go out there, get injured or just underperform. And they're going to be stuck paying this guy so much money over the next 2 years. According to CBS Sports, he's going to be one of the higher paid running backs in the league after all this is said and done.
I think that's what he was looking for, though, is the thing.
Yes.
Speaking of a lot of money guaranteed, the Jacksonville Jaguars solved their quarterback controversy by cutting starting quarterback Blake Bortles to sign Nick Foles to a 4-year, $88 million.
That's a lot of money.
Quite frankly, I'm not the biggest fan of it.
I think it's a decent signing. I mean, Foles has experience, and he's not super old. I mean, he's getting on up there a little bit, but I mean, they can do what they need to with the guy. I mean, this isn't his first rodeo.
Right, but my thing with it is right. You're pretty much giving $88 million to a guy who, for the majority of his career, has been a perennial, backup. This is a lot of money to give on a guy who, outside of Philly, never really amounted to anything.
Well, most of America couldn't tell you who else he played for besides Philadelphia. I mean,
remember his stint with the Chiefs? Me neither.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And
the Rams.
Here's my take on the whole thing. Speaking, I believe the word objectively, I think this is a pretty good deal. Personally, I think the Jaguars should have maybe focused on getting a quarterback, but at the same time, this is not as quarterback heavy a draft as last year was. There's not going to be 6 guys going in the first round this time around.
Right.
I think for a temporary solution, because if they can, they gave away Malik Jackson, so I'm not sure how they're doing on the defensive end. That defense.
They still have a lot of young players in there. You got guys like AJ Bouye and you have guys like Jalen Ramsey back there. They have a really young core.
Yeah,
which is why I think that drafting a quarterback, I get there's not really that much quarterback talent, but think about it this way. The Cardinals are more than likely going to draft Kyler Murray with a first pick. That leaves probably the best quarterback talent in Dwayne Haskins open. Because
many people
everyone ahead of him don't really need a quarterback.
Well, you're going to have to build with Dwayne Haskins. That's going to take how many?
But they're already such a young core. You would pretty much be building everybody up at the same time.
I think what they're trying to do.
If they afford another year or two of just having to continue to build, I think they're going.
My thing is, look how they played 2 years.
They're better off to go ahead and sign somebody who already has the experience. maybe at least have a decent season or see a decent performance out of the quarterback this next year.
I mean,
that's almost my perspective on it, though.
With a 4-year contract, though, you got to be thinking that this is not a temporary solution.
Well, I mean,
very likely that it was good negotiating by Foles' agent.
Yeah, Foles is pretty much the biggest winner of the entirety of free agency, in my opinion. Because $88 million is a lot to put on one player, especially a guy like Foles.
Like Wetzel said, have Foles now and try to have a decent season. I think these guys are trying to gun to make a little bit of noise this season. And with my experience as a Philadelphia fan and Nick Foles, if I can be a little bit opinionated. See, Foles is a great quarterback down the stretch. He's had his number of bad games, yes, even when he came back, but down the stretch, and when he gets to playoff time, there's absolutely no stopping this guy. He didn't play every game in 2013 when he had that breakout year and threw 7 touchdowns at Oakland. He was mostly playing for around the second half of the season when the Eagles needed to win football games. And you know what? They won games. What happened when Wentz got injured in 2017? Eagles, won games, and obviously won the Super Bowl. When Foles gets hot, he is a great quarterback.
But now, like you said, that he's great down the stretch, and and it's nothing against the Jacksonville Jaguars, but they took a huge step backwards last season, and it looks like they're kind of stagnating again. So the problem with him being good down the stretch is that the Jaguars would have to make the playoffs first for him to be good down the stretch.
And, I will say, I think this was definitely a little bit too much money, but I still think the Jaguars made a pretty decent signing. Now, will Foles revert back to the player he was when he was traded to the Rams? Maybe. But honestly, with what, if you read Foles' story, what he went through, the fact he almost quit football, I think it's going to be a lot different for him playing for a different team this time around.
I could see that. And, he's in a whole new league playing in the AFC South now. It's a lot of talent at quarterback there. So, and he's actually one of the least – Andrew Luck is not super mobile, but, this is a quarterback.
Andrew Luck's the best quarterback in that division, though, to be
right,
fair.
That's what I was about to say. He's probably the best one, and he's not even that mobile, but neither is Nick Foles. So it's kind of a good thing. You've got a good mix of quarterbacks in there, and I think adding Nick Foles only really helps it. He's a lot better, I believe, than Bortles for certain.
Yeah, but at the same time, Bortles kind of offered that, extra mobility that Foles just doesn't offer, But maybe that helps to stabilize the Jaguars' offense a little bit,
But here's the thing: Bortles had, that one good year, in 2017. Other than that, he hasn't been really that good a quarterback, and Foles has proven he can play in the big games. Now, as you said, will he get to those big games? Time will tell.
Yeah,
go ahead, Si.
Like I said, pretty much the biggest thing is that I feel like the Jaguars, this free agency outside of Foles, haven't really done anything. If they're
they gave up one of their best pass rushers, Malik Jackson.
Exactly. So like I said, they pretty much are kind of stagnating at the moment, and are probably going to rely really heavily on this next draft because they have the 7th overall pick. So it's probably going to be another rebuilding year. But having a guys like Foles there, like you mentioned, it could be good to help, kind of mature out the younger players that they bring in. So.
All right. Now, I want to move on to Foles. Earlier, we talked about how this was kind of a very receiver-heavy free agent class. And this is technically a trade too, I believe. But Odell Beckham Jr. going to the Browns.
Yes, I was actually going to bring this up.
Can we just take can we just take a moment to realize that Jarvis Landry and Odell are going to be playing with each other again?
Well, my big thing was I was trying to compare this. I guess we can call this a sign because I think they gave him a new contract once he got over to Cleveland.
Yeah, they traded for him, but they restructured his contract, I believe.
Yeah, so I would almost say this Odell Beckham signing is almost as big as the Antonio Brown signing in terms of who's doing what.
I would agree.
If not bigger. I'd actually argue it's bigger, especially considering we all know how Cleveland's looked upon by the rest of the league, right? Cleveland's always been the laughing stock that everyone's picked on because it's easy. They finished 3-13, 5-11. Pretty much every single year, and it's pretty much expected, right? They're expected to be bad. But looking at this new offensive front that they've got, well, Cleveland's pretty much now the favorite to win the AFC North.
But think about this: Baker Mayfield threw 27 touchdown passes, a rookie record, and almost made the playoffs with the core he had last season. And now you add a huge talent in Odell Beckham, and with Baker now in his second year after having time to develop, this is going to be an explosive offense. The Browns are going to be fun to watch. Now, they did give up Jabril Peppers in their deal.
And Jabril was one of their better defensive players last season.
That's true, but
this is pending that Cleveland, who's sometimes an injury-prone team, does not get injured. So.
And speaking of which, I think that was a New York's part, to get Jabril Peppers out of that deal because they just lost Landon Collins this free agency, so. To find a quick replacement to a guy who just left to go to a division rival. I think it worked out pretty well on both ends.
But the Giants have made the other moves the Giants have made,
trading Vernon for Zietler, also to the Browns.
Who do they have now? They have Eli and Saquon, and that's it.
Yeah, Eli probably.
Saquon's going to have to carry
should probably be looking at retirement soon. I know he's been talking about it.
Well, they're probably
Saquon's basically going to become the Drew Brees of running backs and running 50 times a game.
It's it looks like the Giants are going to be drafting Dwayne Haskins, and I feel that NFL teams are starting to adopt that mentality that the Chiefs used, where Alex Smith was the quarterback for 1 year over Patrick Mahomes, and Mahomes comes out and throws over 50 touchdowns, over 5,000 yards as offensive MVP. Now, are those results going to happen every time? No, but I can see the Giants doing something the same with Eli, who, while not as good in recent years, still has a lot of experience and has played in this league at the highest level. And you get a guy with his experience and a guy like Dwayne Haskins, which I forget which of you said it, but Dwayne Haskins is going to be, someone you really have to work with to develop.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Eli could be a good mentor to him.
Yes, I agree with that. And I think that's a situation where you could definitely use the mentor scheme in terms of building a quarterback. And that would, I do believe, really, you could almost you could put me as backup quarterback under Eli Manning, and I'd be night and day compared to what I went in to do.
No.
Right. That's the thing. I feel like Eli is kind of somewhat underappreciated there. You don't just end up starting for 15 years in the league and not be, somewhat good.
I agree with that, yeah.
There's the thing. Remember, he was the dude who pretty much led the Giants to the Super Bowl twice against Patriots teams that were heavily favored in both games. And
especially
came
42.
out and won. Especially 42 when the Patriots won in 18-0. So if they do plan to bring a quarterback, and I believe they will end up doing that, then Eli is a really great guy who's seen pretty much everything that this league has to offer, and I think there's few better people to learn from.
Yeah, even though he's not as good as he once was, you're right. He's probably one of the better people, especially with the fact that he's on his way out, pretty much at this point.
Yeah, had the greatest receivers in the world either. So, like you guys said,
exactly. Like who are his best receivers outside of Odell? Plexico Burress,
Mario Manningham, I think his name was. What was the name of the guy who was famous for doing the salsa dance in the end zone?
You mean oh no, I know who you're talking about. I can't think of dude's name right now.
I can't think of his name either, but he was pretty good. I mean,
like I said, Plexico was probably the second best out of that.
The guy famous for one of the greatest catches in the Super Bowl in any game of all time was David Tyree, and
no name.
No name,
exactly,
and pretty much still a no name outside of that catch. Great catch though.
Yeah. Moving on, big defensive moves as well. Earl Thomas signed with the Baltimore Ravens with $32 million guaranteed, which is the most by an NFL safety in NFL history.
Well, wasn't Earl Thomas like the last of the Legion of Boom, pretty much?
Yep, and now he's a Baltimore Raven. So you got to think now. Wetzel and I, we got to think that once Kevin Byard's rookie contract goes up, that he's pretty much going to get guaranteed more.
But yeah, I like the Ravens signing Thomas just because historically the Ravens have been known for having a good defense.
Right.
Ray Lewis and especially Ed Reed, and and what is Earl Thomas but an excellent defensive player
and you got a
safety like Ed Reed.
And you got to think with Eric Weddle announcing that he would be walking in free agency, that they were going to go and sign a big safety anyway. And what better safety to go sign than Earl Thomas, who's arguably the best safety in the league right now?
Yeah, well, I know Clinton Dix is knocking on the door, or he was at least.
Nah, he signed with the Bears.
Yeah, I know for this free agent period, if they were not going to get Earl Thomas, they were going to get Clinton Dix.
Right, but I think Earl Thomas is they pretty much clearly won in terms of.
And I'm glad for the Ravens because they were a playoff team last year, and they just made themselves a heck of a lot better on defense. Now you just gotta develop Lamar a little bit, and these guys could be legitimate.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned Clinton Dix. I want to bring him up for a second just because he is joining the best secondary in football.
Yes, and they got him in a great price, too. Can we just talk about that for a second? $3.5 million? I mean,
even if he's not as great as advertised,
now I get it.
Good.
He's getting up there in age for sure, but he's still insanely durable. This was a really good deal on the Bears' part.
And he's still a recognizable name outside of,
his name. Yes.
Exactly.
Kyle Fuller and Eddie Jackson.
26 years old. So.
But overall, I think the one team who has won me over in free agency, and maybe I'm a little biased on it, but I think the Tennessee Titans have made some fantastic just overall moves for their team in general.
You want to know something, Cy? I was reading NFL.com. They would actually agree with you. They said that most of the Titans signings have been very positive ones. So, so experts are saying that, and we're college kids doing a freaking podcast.
Well, you got to think, look, out of all of the free agent options possible, we didn't need a number one receiver because Corey Davis is pretty much going to be the guy for the team. So we needed a solid slot guy. And the best slot receiver that was available in free agency was Adam Humphries, who the Titans battled with the Patriots over, and he ended up signing with Tennessee.
Who also is on his way up. Let me just say, even
exactly
ring chicken.
I think the biggest thing with Adam Humphries is that he's coming from Tampa Bay, so it's not exactly the biggest market. Not a lot of people really know, but he was the best third down slot receiver last season. So, this is another big weapon for Mariota, who they just keep looking to have that big breakout season that Titans fans have been waiting for. Got a few good signings from the Miami Dolphins as well. They ended up signing defensive end Cameron Wake and trading for quarterback Ryan Tannehill, who
that Tannehill deal was too good, man.
That Tannehill deal was really good on our simply because we finally have a backup who can challenge Mariota.
And
Ryan's been a consistent starter in the league for 8 years now.
And I've said this, so many times, and I'm gonna keep saying this. The best backups you want to have are usually the more experienced guys. Like I like having like old guys as backups, which Tannehill isn't that old, but as you said, that's 8 years experience as a starter, and he's been in the playoffs. Regardless of how he's done
Actually,
the past few years and battling with injuries, you're right. This is the kind of guy you want to have at backup. Especially with Mariota, getting hurt last year.
To correct you there, Ryan Tannehill has never played in the playoffs. The year the Dolphins made the playoffs in 2016, Matt Moore was the one who ended up starting for them.
Man, they go through quarterbacks down there like they go through clothes.
No, it's just that Tannehill was kind of off and on that season, and he tore his ACL in week 14.
But he did play on a playoff team, so I mean, I guess
that was
they were I want to say they were 9-4 when he went down. So
oh wow, so yeah, I mean, I guess he did the better part of the season, which was good.
Oh yeah, like I said though, he's I know Dolphins faithful were kind of happy to see him go, just because I think they're just tired of struggling in the AFC East as much as everyone else. But I think it's a really solid signing, especially if he's going to come in and be a backup.
Yeah, so especially a replacement for Blaine.
And as I mentioned, Cameron Wake was brought in as well. And say what you want about giving a 37-year-old a 3-year contract, but here's the thing: he led the league on third down pressure last season as a 37-year-old defensive end. So he reminds me a lot of Delaney Walker in this sense of old but gold. And Cameron Wake's an absolute monster. If you've seen him play, I know when he played the Titans last season, he did an absolutely great job.
Speaking of the Dolphins, let's bring up that they signed Ryan Fitzpatrick, which was kind of sort of big, but is he going to be the starter, do you think?
That's kind of the thing I'm asking. I think that's probably why they signed him, because when they got rid of Tannehill, their quarterback depth was like 2 rookies, including Luke Falk, who the Titans drafted and immediately traded. So,
well, it's funny you talked about that, Stuart. You mentioned Nick Foles being good down the stretch. Well, I mean, let's talk about Ryan Fitzpatrick being good down the stretch.
He was good for the first 3 games last season, and then was benched and replaced with Jameis Winston.
Well, that was an understandable move, I think, in every party. He was very inconsistent, but I mean, just when he played in Buffalo and when he played in Tennessee and even Tampa Bay, from 20-yard line to 20-yard line, he can get you where you've got to go.
Right, but 6 points means more than 3, so.
I'll say this, is that I think, after the run of Fitzmagic, I think benching him really screwed him up. I think he could have possibly kept up, some of that momentum. I mean, because Fitzpatrick's whole career has been like, him playing well and then him not playing well.
Yes.
He threw 31 touchdowns with the Jets the one year and then was completely awful the next year. He's such an on and off quarterback for sure, but I don't think last year was necessarily his fault. I think the Bucs should have stuck with him.
I mean,
probably would not have hurt, but they do. I mean, people make the argument that he's better than Marcus Mariota in terms of they were drafted in the same draft class, and the big debate that year was which one of them was going to be drafted first.
And Mariota threw like
really, I think the Titans have gotten more out of Mariota than the Buccaneers have Jameis Winston, because it's like the Buccaneers have a hard time moving on from whatever other quarterback that they have besides Jameis Winston. It's like they just haven't really. I don't know. I just feel like Winston hasn't had the time to be able to put in the effort.
Who's the guy they had before Jameis? Like it was Josh something.
Was it Josh?
And he wasn't bad. He almost got into the playoffs, but then he was just he was traded to the Vikings, I think. I forgot who he was. But it's like, Jameis hasn't been to the playoffs yet. See, here's the thing. He had, I think, his sophomore season was like almost kind of like a breakthrough season. Like he played well, and all of a sudden it looks like the Bucs are on the rise. Then they get their own edition of Hard Knocks, and it looks more and more like, okay, this is a Buccaneers team that's going to make some noise. 2017, they don't make noise. 2018, well, we all see how that ended.
Oh, were you referring to Josh McCown, Stewart?
Yeah.
It was not Josh McCown.
Oh.
I know he played for him, though. Or was it?
Yeah, it might have been. I think it was Josh McCown.
I think that'd be right, yeah.
Which, speaking of which, if you're not starting over Josh McCown, I mean...
I don't think Josh McCown is honestly that bad. He is
probably...
He's one of the best backups in history.
Think about it this way, right? When you're coming in as a second overall pick in a draft, you gotta pretty much have been established a starter by that point. And Jameis Winston has not established himself as a true.
Like I said, he had the 1 year where he oozed potential, and since then has pretty much wasted it.
And
now
you can blame it on him wasting it, Bucs not utilizing him properly. It's a two-way street.
Well, we don't have to look much further than Josh Freeman in terms of
That's who I was thinking about.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, the guy going out, and just he had a couple of years to do something, and it's like they just never really fully utilized the guy. I felt like.
It seems to be the case with pretty much everyone that goes through Tampa.
Yeah,
it seems.
And that's really a shame. I mean, they've got all these talented guys, and that just Byron Leftwich had the same issue for a little bit.
Any other big name free agent signings you want to mention?
Well, we know Blake Bortles signed with the Rams.
Now, I actually really like this deal for old Bortles. It's a 1-year deal. I know that, but I think it's fairly solid. It'll probably be a backup to Jared Goff, but maybe this season, he can pick himself back up a little bit and probably look for a good deal next season.
Yeah, I think as a backup, you could do a lot worse, honestly.
Because truth be told, Blake Bortles is a great dude. Just in general, you can say what you want about his quarterback, but I think this is I think it's a fairly solid deal for him.
And to keep on the Rams, because this just happened kind of out of nowhere, Clay Matthews signed with the Rams.
Yeah, that's a nice little signing. People may say he's washed up or whatever, but I still think he's got it, and he's going to help them sell tickets, if nothing else.
He's not as big. I don't think he's quite as big as he was, but I still think he has mad talent.
Yes. Well, Mark Ingram signed with the Baltimore Ravens. I was actually kind of happy with that one. That was around the same time.
I like that because that gives Lamar, who's already a pretty good runner, another good runner.
Yes.
That's going to affect the Saints a little bit because Ingram and Kamara were, were a really good dynamic duo. And now it's a shame that one bad call kept them from playing in the Super Bowl together. That's disappointing, but that's just how it goes, I guess. But
that's a fair statement.
But you know what?
It's the business.
But you know what? The Ravens got themselves a pretty good running back. I don't think he'll put up like super duper numbers, but I think he'll do well enough.
Well, he's getting $5 million a year over 3 years, which equals to $15 million. I don't think that's bad for either side.
Speaking of the AFC North, where there were winners with the Ravens and the Browns, the Bengals and everything they've done has been absolutely bad.
Well, they got rid of Vontaze Burfict, which
is probably the best thing they did. But then they kept Bobby Hart, who was pretty much the worst tackle on that team last season, and then they kept Preston Brown, who plays linebacker for them as well, who is also struggling. Signing them to
the Bengals got a lot of work they got to do, man. They have so much they got to do.
They signed John Miller to a $5.5 million per year deal over 3 years, which they probably could have gotten him for much cheaper.
You said John Miller?
Yeah, John Miller.
Is that like the Walmart brand, Von Miller?
John Miller.
He's a guard.
Not even good enough to play linebacker.
And they signed BW Webb to a deal for 3 years. For a 3-year deal worth up to $13 million. Like, they're spending so much money unnecessarily on these guys who, obviously, as you can tell, you probably never heard of. So, the Bengals have just, kind of floundered in free agency so far.
They blame it all on Marvin Lewis, but it's hard to blame it on Marvin Lewis at this point.
When Marvin Lewis isn't even there.
But it would be that of Bengals fans to continue to blame it on Marvin Lewis, even though he's not there anymore. And it's sad to say.
It's like blaming Stan Lee when a Marvel movie's bad, when he's not necessarily involved in, I mean, he has his cameos and he created the characters, but it's not like he made the movie himself.
Speaking of which,
that was a bad comparison. My bad.
The Packers also made a kind of bad move signing Zadarius from the formerly of the Baltimore Ravens to a deal worth more than $34 million over the next 2 seasons.
Criminy.
Yeah, the guy's first 3 seasons in Baltimore, he didn't really do anything, and then
I don't even know who he is.
Exactly my point. It seems like teams are throwing money. I mean, the guy was all right last season, but we're $34 million over 2 years. I mean, there's few players who can do that, especially not this guy. Speaking of it seems like offensive linemen have gotten kind of severely overpaid.
They are extremely important.
Right.
According to The Blind Side, the opening to that movie, the second highest paid position is the left tackle, because they protect the quarterback's blind side.
That is true. Quan Alexander signed with the 49ers. For an extremely generous 4-year, $54 million deal.
I don't really know. I don't know Quan Washington that well.
I don't either.
You mean Quan Alexander? He came out of LSU.
Alexander, not bad.
Came out around the same time as Dell, and he was quite good. Playing there, but the guy hasn't played a full 16 games in Tampa the past 2 seasons, and he only played 6 games last season. Recording only 2 pass deflections and only 1 sack as a linebacker. So,
what is wrong with you?
A lot of things. Mainly, I'm tired.
Jeez. Right. Oh yeah, D Ford got re-signed by the Chiefs, and then the next day was traded to San Francisco.
Yeah, that was something. I didn't even know that until a few days ago.
Until now?
Yeah, until now. I didn't know that. I was happy for him. I'm thinking, okay.
Oh
Chiefs,
no, I'm so.
Chiefs are giving Ford a chance.
Oh yeah, man. My Auburn brother got paid, dude. I'm happy. Shoot.
Which I heard his plays down in East Alabama's a dump, but I don't know. He's got a bar down there.
Nice.
Yeah.
The D Ford bar.
I think it's called D Ford's, but I don't know.
D Ford's is stupid.
Oh yeah, it's like calling your place Stuart Bradley's.
Yeah, and that sounds really stupid.
Stuart Bradley. That sounds like a driver.
Although D Ford's sounds kind of dope, so fair enough.
All right, you guys want to go ahead and move on to AAF?
Okay.
Sure.
Alrighty, so first thing I want to mention, Salt Lake beat Memphis pretty handily, 22-9.
Yeah, at this point in the season, and I think I said this, when we were doing the preseason stuff, I think at this point we know where everybody's at in the league in terms of win, loss, and the overall performance of where teams are supposed to be.
Here's the thing, though. Brandon Silvers started for the Express. He was
actually
23-37, had 240 yards in the touchdown.
No, he did not start. Mettenberger started, and Mettenberger got hurt. So
he almost got hurt on the first play because his stats are 0 attempts, 0 completions, 0 yards, 0 yards per average, 0 TD, 0 INT, 0 LG, 1 sack.
Because he got hurt on the sack.
It's like Carson Palmer in the playoffs.
No, it's like Zach Mettenberger when he played for the Titans. I mean, I've seen this before, but I hope he bounces back, and I hope all is well with him.
I mean, I'm happy for Silvers at least, him being from Troy.
Yeah, I'm happy to see Silvers play.
He's a has-been at this point. Since they're bringing in Menzel. I mean, they've got.
Ooh,
yeah,
we can actually talk about that in depth now
because that's big.
Johnny Manziel.
Like now. I mean, that's ridiculous.
So Johnny Manziel, as Wetzel mentioned, was put onto waivers by the San Antonio Commanders since they didn't sign him, and he got allocated to teams by their current record, which means Memphis got first crack, and Memphis signed him. So now he is officially a member of the Memphis Express and has been practicing with them this week.
This is interesting because Menzel, as far as I'm aware, wasn't that great in the CFL. And now he's back playing a version of American football. Now, how's the AAF compared to the CFL? Honest to goodness, I couldn't tell you. CFL is probably better right now just because those players have had more experience. And
they kind of have similar takes on football where they kind of play a more feeder league role. Like they kind of just help to bolster players up a bit so that they can work their way back into the NFL. So they're kind of similar talent level wise.
I mean, I could see this working. I could see Manziel, playing admirably. I don't think we should expect, Heisman level Manziel from when he was at A&M because that Manziel's gone.
Could you imagine though if he just pulls off the stuff like he did against Alabama that season?
He would be a one-man show, and the Express would keep on winning.
Like my big thing with all this
keep on winning. They would win more. They'd be 5-5.
Well, Brandon went from playing a couple of weeks ago to now probably being a fourth string, and that's just a prime example of how inconsistent Memphis quarterbacks have been. We can sit here and talk about how Menzel will or won't be good in this league, but it can't be any worse than what they've already had. There's just no way.
Can't do worse than Hackenberg.
Like, I really wish the dude all the best. I know a lot of people are rooting against him just because, it is what it is.
Look,
he's not,
he
hasn't been the most likable of people, but
he had God-given ability, and he had an ego. He was a college kid. He was immature. I can't fault him. I can fault him a little bit, but can't fault him 100% for that. Just because when you're college, you're young, dumb, and stupid.
Right. So I wish
that I said 2 words for stupid.
Right. I wish him all the best though on this move. And speaking of which, can we talk about how so what do we make of the Salt Lake Stallions at this point?
Well, I want to give credit to their offensive line. no sacks this game against a pretty good Memphis front seven.
I've just got one word to say about those guys, and it's unlucky.
Like that's exactly the word I would use to describe them. Is that they've had a few unfortunate results. Like thinking back to the game they played against Birmingham, where they their kicker missed 3 field goals, in a game that had
Long
they made those, they would have
easily.
I know, but like had he made it like one of those, it's a tie game, right?
Yeah.
Well, if any chance that they get in the AAF playoffs,
Better
watch out.
They are. It's slim for them right now. I think I saw a list, and I think theirs is at like 14% right now to make the playoffs out of the West. So, it's not likely, but it's still possible at this point.
Like I said, just watch it.
Like I said, it's just this unfortunate.
Yes.
Right now,
they know how to perform.
That's true. The Legends decided to legend things up this week by by scoring 6 points again and getting blown out.
Okay, my thing is I'm trying to figure out who's worse, Memphis or Atlanta.
I think
Atlanta is, personally.
I don't know per se. Like Atlanta has the bad results on their end. You know, they lost 37-6 this week to San Antonio, and then lost 40-6 in week 1.
Memphis has played more close games in their defense.
Yeah,
that is true, but I mean, to be fair, neither of them have much to brag about.
Well, if Memphis could get their quarterback situation handled, which they very may well have it now, then we wouldn't be having this discussion. I
mean, Atlanta thought that they had it figured out with Aaron Murray, and they go and lose by 31. So,
well, like I said, there's a little bit of season left, and we can talk all day about who's good quarterback, who's bad quarterback. But at this point in the season, kind of like Si said, there's not a big excuse. I mean, people have things figured out at this point.
Speaking of good quarterback, bad quarterback, the
Logan Woodside to Aaron Murray.
What? No, the Birmingham Iron had a little bit.
Why are we moving on from the Commanders game? I had stuff I wanted to say.
Oh, okay. Continue then.
Well, I want to give a shout out to the fact that the Commanders start 1-0, lose 2 straight, and now they've won 3 straight games. You know, obviously, very convincing win in this game, and their defense has been great. They had 3 interceptions in this game and held a bad team to a very low amount of points. And in the close game they played with the Iron, as we saw, you know, they held the Iron to what was it, 11 points? They didn't score many points themselves. I mean, it's obvious this defense ranks among one of the best in the AAF with the Iron.
That's true, but as you mentioned with Logan Woodside, I don't know, their quarterback situation's not exactly the best either.
He had a decent game this outing, but yeah, you're right. And Kenneth Farrow did not have a good day on the ground.
So it's literally just like them having a really solid defense is kind of helping them along the way. At least this time around.
But still, you know, offensive production doesn't lie when you score 37 points. Greg Ward did also have the first special team. I think his first special teams touchdown in AAF history.
Yeah, he returned
with a long, awesome punt return. Which I've always loved Greg Ward. I loved him when he was quarterback at Houston. He was a backup receiver on the Eagles when they won the Super Bowl. You know, dude's got mad talent, and I was glad to see him make a big play like that. It makes noise. Now we talk about the Iron game.
Well, like I mentioned, we go from quarterback controversy to quarterback controversy. Keith Price goes down. Perez manages to step up, and the Iron win on the last-second field goal from Nick Novak.
You know, and sometimes guys like that need a chance for their own redemption, and I think he halfway got it. He still didn't do the greatest when he came back in, but he obviously was much improved, which was past due.
You know, Yeah, right. Obviously 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. It's not the best look, but he has
359 yards,
passing.
though.
But he had passing touchdowns, and as Stu mentioned, 359 yards.
Yeah, and like almost 50 passing attempts, which was ridiculous.
Yeah, but what? That's like, That's like 7 yards per attempt. That's not bad.
Not bad, no.
And I want to say this. How many did he have?
Did we talk about
LaDainian
Washington had 128 yards and 2 touchdowns, I believe.
Receptions. He had that huge touchdown.
73-yard touchdown pass, which is the longest touchdown pass in AAF history up to this point.
So I almost want to take all the praises I had for praises and hopes I had for Quentin Patton and kind of transfer those over to Washington. I think he's emerged as the better receiver, in my opinion, in the past few weeks, especially this week.
Yeah, you take away the 73-yard pass. He has 3 receptions for 55 yards, which means he's averaging over 18 yards a catch. So I think it's evident that he should be wide receiver number 1 on the team, but I kind of like the role they're utilizing him in right now for the moment. So
now I want to go back to quarterbacks because we didn't have a chance to talk about the game against the Apollos.
Right.
When Price came in, one of the things that we all liked about him was that with how shoddy the offensive line can be, Price can scramble around and he can make plays happen. And I was looking forward to see what he could do this week. Now Perez played his best game of the year, but he was still making those stupid throws that, Sai, as you say, are a result of him just trying to be too aggressive.
It's kind of also partially on the fact that we've had 5 different offensive linemen go down. It's got to be up there. So literally, it's just not having a consistent line in front of him. Everything's collapsing upon him. He's got to make quick throws. Receivers not getting open. And I get it's also partially on him too. He's not completely innocent because it's on him to make the throws with the space that he's given. But there's so many different factors that go into quarterbacks missing throws. But I agree with you on like I've said previously, he's still kind of playing really aggressive.
Now, I think when it comes to solving this controversy, I think really the only game these guys have to play with where maybe they could rotate both quarterbacks would be next game against Memphis.
I can agree with that, yeah.
It's either that or Atlanta.
Well, this is the next man up league. I mean, you got to take those games and use your advantage.
Exactly, but I don't think we know the extent of Price's injury yet. I believe
he was cleared to play. He was cleared to come back out and play, but Lewis stuck with Perez.
So Lewis stuck with Lewis. Okay, got it.
Pretty much, yeah.
So okay, yeah, either this week or 3 weeks from now when we're playing Atlanta again. I think that's going to be the best times to go about it. I say I'm actually going to agree with you there. This week, if they mess around with it a bit, I think we can find who's going to truly end up being the starter for this team.
I mean, if we're playing, so we're 6 games in at this point. So if we're playing Atlanta and Memphis, those are 2 easy games. But then we have to play. We have to play Orlando again. And who else do we have to play again?
Or
who are we? Actually, we haven't played Arizona, have we?
No. I think
we have to play them.
I think they are week 9. I want to say.
So really, do we play Atlanta right after we play Memphis?
We play Atlanta week 8 because that is the last game at Legion Field.
Okay, so then if we're playing Memphis next week, okay, then we play Memphis then Atlanta.
Right.
Did I get? If what you're telling me is right, if you got the schedule right, because I don't have the schedule in front of me right now.
I actually do. So give me a second here. I believe that we do end up. Okay, hold on. Yeah, we play. Yeah, we play Memphis this week, Atlanta the week right after, and then Arizona, Orlando.
Okay. Oh wow, so we're in a good position then.
Yeah.
For the most part, I think. What if we win the next 2 games? We'll be 6-2.
Yeah.
At that point, playoffs will be guaranteed.
Now, then I'll say Memphis is really the big game where we have to mess around. But by Atlanta, we can screw around a little bit with quarterbacks. But I think by the end of that game, most definitely, I would say maybe even at halftime that game, we have to know who the guy is going to be going forward.
Right,
is it going to be LP12 or are we going to stick with Price?
Because those last 2 games, against Arizona and Orlando,
which Arizona
almost
played.
Right, almost locks for the playoffs. Although Arizona, I believe, is 3rd currently in the West.
That's a tough West division, though. Is the thing.
Yeah, San Antonio and San Diego are making it real tough. So these next 3 games potentially could really end up going really well in our favor.
I just hope that with the rematch with Orlando, we go down there and actually beat them.
That would be fantastic.
Right.
It'd really help us in the long run.
I don't think. But we're not going to do that until we know who QB1's going to be.
Yeah, because I would prefer to have an established quarterback come week 10 because you can see how that really hurt us in the game against Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
How I think
Price didn't play bad, but thing was that I feel it was kind of too little, too late.
Kind of like the Mettenberger situation where you just kind of threw a little too late.
Yeah.
That and defense wasn't really doing us any favors.
All right. Now we mentioned Arizona, and they handed the Apollos their first loss.
That's right. Arizona is the first team to defeat the Apollos, and the AAF Reddit went crazy.
And Arizona has been, and Arizona is weird. Talk about just because
they're like
up and down they've been. Like with the Commanders, they had a 2-game stint where they were bad, and now they're good again. But with Arizona,
you don't know if you're getting
each week
good Arizona or bad Arizona. It's always a week by week cases with.
I remember in the beginning of the season we were sitting here talking about Arizona being the number 1 team, possibly in the league, and
and then they had one of the most complete first games.
Right. They put up the most points in week 1 outside of Orlando and
against Salt Lake.
Against a Salt Lake team who stayed competitive for the most part. I mean,
hard to argue with that. I understand.
But, I don't know. They've just become so hit or miss in the past few weeks. I don't really know what to make of them
and the second we think that San Diego is going to pass them, San Diego loses to a Birmingham Iron team that's second in the East. So I don't
even though Orlando lost, I still by far like the most complete team in the AAF.
Sure, probably best coach to say the least.
I'm not going to disagree there. Where would y'all rank everyone at this point?
So I don't know. What do you think is
Memphis
the Hot Shots' problem?
7? I'm gonna put Atlanta 8th.
That's probably me too. I think Memphis is better than Atlanta is.
I'm gonna put Salt Lake 6th. Like I said, they just kind of been unlucky, but
Well, and that's a
you have to
courteous
do
though,
some.
I mean,
You
because
have to do more to not avoid those unlucky situations that
right.
you just haven't been doing.
I mean, and that's not, like I said, that's not a disrespectful 6 by any means.
No. Fifth. Dare I say Arizona's fifth?
I'm gonna say San Diego.
No,
Maybe.
San Diego's quite good.
I think Arizona's better than San Diego.
Okay. I would put.
Well, right now, Arizona's actually ranked second in the West Division.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah, they are. And San Antonio is obviously at the top at 4-2.
Okay.
Well, they were my number 4 team, so.
San Antonio or Arizona?
Yeah, San Antonio.
Jeez. How much do you rate Arizona?
Okay, so check me on that. Arizona's 4th and San Antonio's 3rd.
I don't believe the Iron are the second best team in the AAF.
Well, I think it's more based on.
I would say, in my opinion, Iron are 3rd behind San Antonio and Orlando.
Yep, I'll agree.
So, what I'm seeing is that in the East, it's clear who's probably going to win the East, or who's going to make a playoff in the East.
It's clear who the 2 playoff teams in the East are.
Yeah, Orlando and Birmingham. In
the West is it's the wild, wild West out there.
If San Antonio can keep winning, then they'll have a spot for sure. And then besides that,
their next game versus San Diego is going to be huge. So
and San Diego and Arizona are tied for the second spot, and the Stallions, despite being 2 and 4, I would say are still in it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's the wild, wild West out there. But it's kind of interesting. The East, there seems to be such a quality difference, seeing that 2 of the top 3 teams, in our opinions, are in the Eastern Conference, and the other 2 teams are like at the very bottom. Whereas the West kind of fills up the middle of everything. And
so here's how I'm seeing it. In the East, we have best offense versus arguably best defense. And in the West, you see jack of all trades, master of none.
That's
a good way to put it. Overall, I think Garrett Gilbert's probably got an MVP on lock right now. I don't think anyone's even
at least
close
offensive. What about defensive?
I don't think anyone's close to touching him at this point.
Well, does AAF even have a defensive MVP?
I don't know. I only really pay attention to Birmingham defensive stats. Beniquez Brown has impressed me the last few weeks, but I think Jamar Summers has been our best defensive player.
He's been our best defensive back for sure. He had the interception this game.
He
has 3 or 4 on the year, I think.
I think 4 or 5, somewhere in that number.
Well, if I could pick 2 guys from Iron to go to the NFL, it would be Summers and Colton Schmidt, to say the least.
Oh yeah, Colton Schmidt would get special teams player of the year in a heartbeat.
MVP Colton Schmidt?
In a kicker once won NFL MVP, I wouldn't say it's not too far out of our own possibility for a punter to win AAF.
Can a punter logistically win MVP though?
I mean, I guess if you had enough punts inside the 20 and it showed that you made that big of an impact, I mean, I guess so.
I mean, because Colton's pretty much done that, is the thing.
Yeah, I mean, he's only had a couple that actually went in the end zone.
He had literally that one beauty that bounced off. Bounced out the one against Orlando.
I could see that guy playing again on Sundays in the NFL. So
now
someone would probably give him the chance.
Still got his whole career ahead of him too.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Now I want to say something in general about the AAF, and it's that this is, this hasn't been football that has blown our minds or anything. Expecting it to, but I think it's been some. I don't want to say great quality. I just want to say it's been quality football. It's entertaining to watch. It's great to go to, and we're invested in it. Obviously,
it's been nice to have football this late in the general football season. To have not just football to watch in the months of February through April, but to have actually like somewhat quality football, because there's been really redeeming things about this. You got guys who come in with great stories, like how Perez had only played 2 years of Division Two football as a quarterback before starting in the AAF, and then you have guys like Charles Johnson who promised his dad that he would make it to the NFL, and now he's working on clawing his way back.
One of the better receivers in the league, so more power to him. I think he'll make it.
So there's plenty of redeeming stories. There's enough rule changes to keep things fresh. It's actually like somewhat fast. Like you hardly notice those little like windowed commercial breaks when they happen.
It's literally like 30 seconds and they're back.
Yeah, you hardly notice it when you're there watching it live too. You just feel like, oh, okay, they're back. It's like the next possession's like boom, it just starts.
And I know that there is a fan base for this. We're on the Iron official fan page. The ratings have been in the millions. And while actual attendance hasn't been the greatest in the games we've gone to, the crowd that we've been with have been active, been rowdy, and there are people who really care for our team, and this AAF just has a good fan base in general, in my opinion.
Right. Like we have fans out in Brazil. Like I know one of our most consistent users on Twitter is from out there, so it's not just impacting just the American market. It's somewhat of an international thing, and it's done fairly well on TV. I get ratings, they're not like super crazy. However, the biggest thing to come out of it is that ratings seem to have gotten fairly consistent, and it's gotten to a level to where the business can like actually like stay afloat with those ratings. And I think that's just the biggest reason as to why attendance has kind of been slacking in the sense is that, just in general, football is a lot more enjoyable to watch on TV as opposed to going live. And I love going and watching football live, but
as they say, there's no other way to do it than to do it live.
I think it's just more convenient for people to watch at home than to spend, money to go watch.
But the tickets don't cost that much is the thing.
I mean, not on our end, like, because we're students, we just flash them our student IDs. It's $10, but like, when we went the first week, it was like.
But still, like, that's $40 for what were pretty good seats, being honest.
Right, but like when you want to sit lower level, where whichever is, tickets are a little crazy. I mean,
So making out of the rule changes, I don't miss kickoffs at all.
Me neither. And as I said, when I talked about on my blog and here, one of the biggest things we learned from week 1 was that kickers still matter in the league even without kickoffs.
No, but like the one thing that bothers me watching NFL football is like literally every time there's a kickoff after a score, it cuts right to another commercial break. Where here it just starts the possession at the 25 and it gets right into the middle of the action.
And that's really the big thing they meant by, that AAF's going to try and move faster.
And the average game time's about what, 2.5 hours? So they're cutting off pretty much like a whole like 30 minutes or so. It's nice to just have football that's just football.
Yeah.
The one thing I miss is the 7-man fronts. You can only rush 5 people. Because we've seen several times where teams are getting called for rushing too many people, and I kind of just wish that they'd let them run. If that makes any sense.
I mean, even with only the five-man fronts, there have still been some, really good hits, this year.
Right, but
2 less guys, but the intensity is still there.
Right, but I feel like it kind of takes away a little bit from it though.
I don't mind it too much, honestly.
What were the other like super big rule changes?
I see the onside kick, which has worked once, but I mean,
we haven't really seen it like used though. I think there's only been like 2 attempts at the onside kick, and the one time it worked, it went for like 60 yards. So
yeah, that was against the Irons, and when the Iron used it, it was an incomplete pass.
So three times then. It's been used 3 times and worked. So
we've yet to see it. We've yet to see it actually potentially win somebody a game, but it's still interesting, and I think it'll definitely come in handy.
Right. And the Sky Judge. Okay. So when they use the Sky Judge and like when you're actually the person making the call on TV, it's actually really cool. And it's one thing that I've come to
watch them.
Yeah. It's one thing I've come to really appreciate, that the reviewers are like, they're making the reviewers be really open about this stuff. It gives the TV viewers an extra insight to the game, which is part of the reason why I think attendance might be down, because you lose that aspect when you're in the stadium. That and all the teams being outside of Salt Lake being below the 35th parallel.
Which means
you ever seen a globe?
Yeah.
Okay, latitude lines?
Yeah.
Yeah, the 35th parallel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does that have to do with football?
So literally we're missing out on markets from like New York and Boston, heavily populated areas that don't really have access to going to games on a free will. So
But that was kind of the point of the AAF, to get teams on the smaller market, while the XFL targeted the bigger market.
Right, but I think that's partially why attendance is not as great as they were hoping it'd be.
I mean, I wasn't expecting attendance to be great, but I think it's been a bit lower than I thought it would. Because I think the AAF
San Antonio
did a great job advertising it and getting the brand out there well beforehand. But it's just like, especially like some of the worser teams, oh god, there's no attendance.
Like Salt Lake has kind of struggled, but it's partially on the University of Utah's not letting the team use their branding on their field. But I get it. Universities are kind of stingy, and we know that firsthand. So
But it's like UAB's letting the Iron use their stuff. I'm pretty
Well,
sure
Legion
Orlando.
Legion Field is not owned by UAV though.
It's not.
No, the city of Birmingham just rents it to them. So
Interesting.
I mean, it's been like that since forever.
But
So
I don't know. Got anything else you want to talk about, dude?
Can we talk about the camera angles they've been using? Some of them frustrated me a lot.
Why so?
So like I mentioned with the Sky Judge, like sometimes when you're watching the game, the camera like can to move around like the field as the play is happening, and it's just really frustrating to watch because
Yeah, we actually
everything's moving.
We experienced something like that when watching the Iron game, where the camera cut off like where a pass was going,
Exactly.
and we couldn't see it, and we were just like, "Where's the pass?"
Like it's just a little frustrating on that end, but overall, I think the experiment, if you want to call it that, it's been really fun for me to watch, and something I
I've
definitely
loved it.
I've absolutely loved it. I plan on season ticketing it next year for sure, and honestly, can't wait for year 2 since that's been confirmed.
I've just enjoyed not just the fact that there's football, professional football, back in Birmingham, but the fact it's good football. Because last time Birmingham had a team, the Birmingham Bolts, they were bad. Finished
And
with
the Steel Dogs were just as bad.
So it's not only has it been a long time since Birmingham has seen professional spring football, but it's been a long time since they've been a winner. I would almost argue they haven't had a good team since the Stallions back in the USFL days.
The Birmingham Americans.
But that was the World Football League. That was before the USFL.
And
They did. You're all right. They did win the one and only championship in WFL.
The worst championship in WFL history.
Well, it's like the SB Nation video, the worst XFL championship.
It was also the worst.
It's the only championship, therefore it is the worst.
But next year is really going to be the test for this. With the XFL starting up at the exact same time, we will see how everything unfolds for them, since they will no longer have the hype of being a startup league. They'll be like, we got a year established under our belt. Maybe they can refine things and help promote stuff a little bit.
I think that year head start's gonna help them a good bit, but as I've said, my biggest fear is that they pull what little big time talent there is. Because I mean, there's talented guys, but this is still very much a developmental league. So with the quality of play already not expected to live up to NFL standards, now with 2 leagues pulling players from each other, I fear the quality of play is going to get worse, and that's not going to help anybody.
Now
the only XFL failed.
Now the only thing with the AAF is that when they signed the contracts, they stated that they would not leave to go anywhere else but the NFL. So none of the players that are currently in the AAF can move over to the XFL. So not only are they drawing talent from the same player pool as the AAF, they're also drawing players from the same pool as the CFL. So you got 3 leagues pretty much
Arena League.
I mean,
thought I'd bring that up anyway.
But to your point, you got 3, if you want to count the AFL, still 4 leagues competing with each other for the same player pool that's already limited as is.
It's gonna be ugly.
It's gonna be ugly, and I'm gonna try to keep up with the CFL this season, just because.
Have they started yet?
Not yet. but I do plan on keeping up with it when they do end up starting.
Go Rough Riders.
I have no attachments yet, so we will see.
I just like them for their team color, and I like the name Saskatchewan.
But it's gonna be a really ugly situation for those three leagues, and I'd hate for them to all collapse.
Personally, I don't think the AAF. I mean, not A. I don't think the XFL lasts 2 years. I think the AAF goes on.
What about the CFL? I think the CFL's enough established.
CFL's fine because they're not composed entirely of undrafted NFL guys. No, they have a lot of like guys who went to like Canadian colleges and played like, I guess, Canadian college football.
The Ottawa.
See, Canada has more. Canada has Canada to get players.
But they still rely a good bit on American players as well.
Yeah, but Canadian
because
football.
Quite frankly, when you look at it, there's not a lot of Canadians who play football.
But the CFL has lasted, for years and years and years and years.
The Grey Cup is super old.
I don't think it's going anywhere. And yeah, some of their greatest players have been NFL talents, like Warren Moon and Doug
Flutie. Yeah.
I literally just said Doug Flutie.
Yeah, I know.
I get that, but I don't think CFL is going anywhere. I don't think that has anyone to worry about. Plus, they have a whole a whole country watching them, because it's Canadian football. Canada's
not necessarily. It's not as loved as you would think it is.
Look, CFL is not going anywhere.
I don't think so either, but it's still something to keep an eye on.
That's true.
Like I said, they're all drawing from the same talent, and that can inadvertently affect the Canadian football play as well. So with that being said, moving on from football to baseball.
Briefly.
Mike Trout, 12 years, $430 million.
We couldn't even go a month with a record-breaking contract before we got another record-breaking contract.
The largest contract in professional sports history. 12 years, $430 million. And I only find it funny because Stu said, who knows, Mike Trout may want to come to Philly next year. He signs a 12-year...
I'm not the only one who said that. I wasn't the one
I know, but I just had to bring it up. That he signs a $430 million.
Oh my god.
Dude, imagine what money Aaron Judge is going to make when he
Oh, he's going to ask for probably $500 million.
Dude, how long does it take for baseball to have its first billion-dollar player?
Like in terms of like a total contract?
Will that ever happen? Like,
I hope it doesn't, because
say that 30 to 40 years down the line, maybe, that we're having guys pay $1 billion contracts.
The Athletics would be screwed.
It would be stupid. Like $430 million is already
screwed. Have you not seen Moneyball?
Like $430 million is stupid as is, and I get Mike Trout's the best player in baseball, right? But that's a lot of money. Like, I can't even imagine how much $430 million is.
I think someone told me he literally is gonna make like over $4,000 in his sleep. Like, no joke. Because he's gonna make about $98,000 a day. I mean, good lord. What he makes in a day is probably double what my first salary is gonna be in a year.
Jeez, that's already a scary thing to think about.
I mean, we wonder where the heck all of our money's going, and look at what we're playing.
There are
These
probably
baseball players.
whole countries who operate on less money than the terms of his contract.
There are. I almost guarantee you there are. I can't name them, but I guarantee you there are.
Let's see.
I don't even know what to say about this contract, dude. Trout deserved a big contract, but I just wasn't expecting him to resign with the Angels.
Yeah, there are whole countries who are operating on less GDP per year than Mike Trout's making in a year.
Good God Almighty!
And there are countries also that are operating on less than he's making over the terms of his contract. So it's ridiculous.
Just, I figured in 2020, even if he didn't go to Phillies, he'd go somewhere else.
Obviously, he likes
but it looks like
Anaheim.
the Angels are gonna build around him. And you know what? More power to them.
Obviously, he likes Anaheim.
Well, Anaheim loves him.
Oh, the whole baseball world loves him. So.
Yeah, he's an amazing athlete.
And a really good dude.
And he's from Philly. He's a Philly, and he has Eagles season tickets.
I mean,
so I have to love him for that.
I mean, but I still can't grasp, like, what is the thought process of, like, you give a guy over $35 million a year.
Boss, the Phillies gave Bryce Harper $330 million. What if Mike asked for more? Give him all the money now.
Like
they didn't care. Like, I bet like Trout like didn't want $430 million, but it's like they just walk up to him like, hey Mike,
Trout like they're like, so how much do you want? And Trout just writes down a random number, and they're like, okay, cool.
No, I imagine it goes like this. Like, they're like,
so you see how much Bryce Harper just signed for? Yeah. How about 100 million more? All right, done.
Nah, Mike was probably just like, okay, like he didn't care, like he wasn't expecting to make, like, no, they came up to him like, they're like all scared. They're like, Mike, so we're gonna offer you a contract. How's 430 million sound? And they kind of like shield their face with their hands, like bracing for Mike to like get mad or something, and he just goes, okay. Like, that's probably because they're probably willing to offer more.
I think Mike Trout is the biggest winner of NFL free agency.
Yeah, imagine all the Eagles season tickets he could buy. Hell, he could probably buy the Eagles.
No, dude, the Eagles are worth like...
He could buy the Nets.
No, he could not. The Nets are worth over $1 billion.
He could buy a stake in the Nets.
Yeah.
Hell, he could buy a stake in the Eagles. That kind of money. Be a part owner.
Let's see.
That's how we get him involved.
He could buy a whole NHL team.
Who could he buy?
He could buy...
Could he buy the Flyers? That'd be awesome.
No.
Wait. The way you said no is very Canadian. No. Or not Canadian, like Minnesota. No. I don't know.
Let's see. $430 million, yeah. He could buy, with all of the money that he makes, the Washington Capitals.
Jeez.
He could buy...
Then he could make them tanks that the Flyers win.
He could buy the Colorado Avalanche. He could be Anaheim Ducks.
The Mighty Ducks? Oh, I'd go for that.
He could buy the Nashville Predators.
No.
You're right. No, I actually like our ownership, so I think we're all right. He could buy the Vegas Golden Knights. Actually, no, he couldn't. They're worth like
They had to get like a $650 million fee or something like that. But he could buy a whole money. That's just what the stuff like. What do you do with $430 million?
Wipe your ass with it.
That's just a waste of money.
That is. It's a waste of $430 million on toilet paper. When you could have just gone and you could have spent $1 million and bought a lifetime supply of toilet paper. Instead, you wiped your butt with all your money. You're stupid.
Yeah, like.
So,
I mean, fair play though.
You got anything else?
Fair play to Mike Trout, dude. I mean, man's living the dream. Just playing ball and making a load of money.
Si?
Yeah.
Oh, you are here. I thought I was frozen again.
Nah, you're good.
Well, do you got anything else?
Well, we're winding down the NHL season, and the Central Division race is still tight, but it's almost playoff hockey time, and that right there is the best time of the year.
Yeah, playoff hockey is a pretty cool spectacle. I'll give it that.
It's the best thing.
It's when Barry Melrose.
It's the best thing.
It's when Barry Melrose puts in for overtime at ESPN.
It's the best thing. I love playoff time in every sport, right? But I don't think anything matches the intensity and the just overall insanity that comes with playoff hockey. You know, I mean, think about it. 2 seasons ago, Nashville was literally the last team to make the playoffs, and they go in and sweep the first place Chicago Blackhawks and cruise their way to the Stanley Cup final. Like, what other sport do you see teams like that do that kind of on the regular? Like, just before that, about half a decade ago, the Kings were in that same spot and ended up winning the cup. I mean, there is something specific about playoff hockey, absolutely like beautiful, and I'm so excited that we're getting back to it. But it's also a little almost out of hockey, so.
Yeah.
It's about all I have.
All right. Well.
Oh yeah.
Si, you want to sing us a song?
Wait,
did
right.
you say NBA thing?
Oh yeah, and the NBA playoffs are a thing. So.
Oh. Well, yeah, we could talk about those next week.
Congrats to the Warriors. So.
Nah. Not yet. We can't say this yet.
Congrats to the Warriors.
Just pick a song.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the AJS Never podcast. Tune in next time to hear Sai sing more dumb songs. I'm singing a song. It's a song that I'm singing. It's a song. A really okay-ish song. I don't know what the word song means anymore.
Last
I'm done.
Mary Jane, one more time.
Hey, no weeds. No weeds. Stay off the weed.
They're not supposed to know that that's what the song means.
Stay off the weed.
We'll see you next week, guys. I'm gonna go listen to some Tom Petty.